So the first thing we want to ask, and Zach, if you can put onto the screen so people could see, the letter from Speaker Edmund Villagomez calling the legislature into session next week, Wednesday. You guys all received that notice from Speaker Villagomez. I'm guessing the question is that the session where House Resolution 22-14 will be debated?
Yes.
It is a session.
It will be.
And is there any indication that by this time next week, Governor Ralph Torres will be impeached?
You want to answer that? I mean, I think that at this point, we all expect to have the House resolution placed on the calendar, debated, and voted upon next week Wednesday.
By next week Wednesday. This is so. There also is. The people are speaking. I don't know if you guys have been receiving. It's going viral. At least 3 different graphics. Can you put up the first one? It was the banner, Zach, the impeach or resign. This is a graphic that was designed that shows side 1 and side 2. These are signs that are being made for, and go on to the next graphic, for on the 12th, right? That's the date of the session. On the 12th, starting at 9:30 a.m., can you put up that next one, Chalo? Support impeachment. We can't let one man continue to destroy our CNMI. Let's all be there in support of impeachment. January 12 at 9:30 a.m. at the legislature, and it's a picture of Ralph Torres, a picture of the speaker's notice of the session, and a gavel in front of the word impeach. And then go to the next one. So that's just one. Then there's another graphic that was created. This is going around viral. 9:30 a.m. Rally at the CNMI legislature, January 12th. Impeach Governor Torres. What is the climate there? And are you seeing more and more people coming out of the woodwork?
We have been hearing people who have been messaging us in support of coming up to rally for the impeachment or the resignation of Governor Ralph Torres. And right now the climate is that the people want to be heard in the session. So we expect a magnitude of people to show up for the session on Wednesday.
Are they only going to have 3 minutes like Fabian?
Poor Fabian only had 3 minutes.
That's standard.
Okay.
It is at this time. But, everybody's always welcome. If they have a longer written statement that they want to submit, we encourage that. They are welcome to come, give their oral testimony, and submit a longer statement.
Submit a written testimony for the record so that they can be a part of CNMI history. That part of history is not lost on Governor Torres himself, who seems to have given up and is, he's writing his own, or he's getting ahead of his own bad news, right? Now he's coming out saying, I want to thank the Republican minority members who advanced this so that impeachment can finally happen. He's treating it as though it's nothing. But this is a big deal because he will, if and when this happens, he will be only the second governor in CNMI history to be impeached, which is an indictment using the political process, right? And in his statement where he just sort of says, it's just impeachment, I'm glad it's going to happen, he blames and he takes the biggest, as a matter of fact, the only person he names in this whole thing is Representative Tina Sablan, who is a declared candidate for governor, Democrat gubernatorial candidate. And he talks about 3 alleged lawbreakers. He makes references to you at Propst, to Ben Camacho, and I don't know who he's trying to say is the alleged complicit animal rights violator. Celina. Oh, that's you? You love my dog, Celina. So he's, I guess he's taking personal swipes at 3 alleged lawbreakers, but he makes you accountable for all of it. Ms. Sablan, can you, what's your take on that? It just looks highly political from where I'm sitting.
It's nothing new, really. I mean, this is kind of part of Governor Torres' playbook. Yes, I am running for governor. There's no secret about that.
But I am also still a legislator with a job to do, a job that I take very seriously. And I have been part of this investigative process for a good 2 years now, looking at Governor Torres's records of expenditures, looking at the actions and inactions that he is ultimately responsible for. And we as legislators have duties and mandates to carry through, and this is one of them. Holding the governor accountable for his conduct, for his abuses of public funds and his office. That is part of the job of the legislature. And I intend to continue doing my job as a legislator, as all of my colleagues here are committed as well.
He trivializes. Sure, of course.
Can I just add, prior to this, we were having meetings about more corruption, about sole source contracts, about more things that Ralph Torres completely supports and endorses, as long as his own people are benefiting from it. And this earlier meeting that we had was just a perfect prime example of the straight up corruption that we continue to see, and that's something that we don't talk about too often. We've been talking about his lavish reimbursements and first class travel and everything, but there hasn't been enough about, I think, on his sole source contracts that are made possible thanks to Governor Torres.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the next thing I was going to bring up was the part of his statement where he sort of trivializes the charges against him. Excessive travel, personal expenditures, etc. I noticed, I don't think it's lost on many, that the legislature chose in this instance to not bring up the accusations that we've seen on paper resulting from the federal raids that happened in November of 2019. What was the thought process behind not including those major allegations of fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy, and all of those acts, and also on foreign interference in a United States election? Why didn't you guys include those in this round of impeachment?
Well, for one thing, if we had brought in all the federal issues, his expenditures of federal funds, it would have dragged the JGO hearings much, much longer. We have seen those documents, so relating to his expenditures of federal funds, and also we respect the jurisdiction of the federal law enforcement. And they conduct their own separate and independent investigations. This is a legislative process, so we stick to our duties and responsibilities here as legislators, and we'll leave the federal investigations up to the federal law enforcement agencies. And from what I understand, there are a multiple of agencies involved.
That's what we understand from our sources as well. Getting back to the issue of money, federal money. The governor and Congresswoman Sablan, yesterday we had a discussion about how much money is at Governor Torres' disposal. Well over $1 billion, you said. At least $500 million at his direct discretion, within his direct discretion from ARPA funds. Practically, the faster Governor Torres is removed from office, the less time he has to spend that money and to do all this sole source procurement stuff. What kind of conversation is going on among members of the House and the Senate about that sort of reality?
I think it's a reality that we all recognize. And, to go back to the point you raised earlier, Troy, about Governor Torres' attempt to trivialize the charges that we are bringing through this impeachment resolution. So, again, it's 2 counts of commission felony, 2 counts of corruption, and 2 counts of neglect of duty. I mean, he can try to make it seem like this is nothing, nothing I did was illegal. All of these were within the law. All of these expenditures, even if we don't like them, they're not illegal. That was, I think, one of the lines he tried to use in the media to justify some of the expenditures we're looking at, right? But like, you take it all together, and what we see is a pattern of abuse, a pattern of waste, a pattern of fraud. That's part of the charges, and so it absolutely also it raises questions about, can we trust this governor to handle over $1 billion and to be responsible for that, and to spend these monies wisely. And I think that what we've seen with this pattern of spending these past years, and just how decisions are made at his level, right, for scarce local funds, never mind federal funds, right, that it raises all kinds of questions that we are now attempting to address and hold him accountable for, for the waste and the abuse that we've seen.
Well, and if I may add,
Of course.
I don't know if this is an impeachable offense, but I wish it were. What about incompetence? I mean, I say that because this is the governor who, after Governor Eloy Enos passed away, who ran, ensured that we didn't go into deficit because he was a fiscally responsible governor. The Ralph Torres regime took over. And what happened right after that? He ran a deficit every single year. Even if you put all this aside, how is it the fact that this guy campaigned on the most robust, greatest super economy in the entire galaxy, and then he runs a $26 million deficit? How could he explain that? And so all the blames and all the finger pointing that he does, you still have to look at the fact that even in a super economy that he bragged about, nonstop, that he still managed to run a deficit. Who does that? Ralph Torres.
Ralph de Leon Gross.
I also want to add, Troy, that the total amount of federal dollars he has had access to is actually more than 500 million. 500 million is roughly the amount we got in ARPA. But if you go back to right after Super Typhoon Sodalor in 2015, the federal agencies have been pouring millions of dollars to the CNMI, and we practically have nothing to show for it.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest complaints of our local constituents. So we were estimating about $1 billion since 2015 has been poured into the CNMI, and that is under his complete discretion to spend, because he won't allow the House of Representatives to appropriate these funds. So more than 500 million.
So let's talk about the money that's left over, and it's quite a bit of money that's left over, and let's actually play this out. Let's say next week the House impeaches the governor, the Senate prepares for a trial, and let's say by February the trial ends and the senators convict Governor Torres on at least one of the charges. So automatically he's removed from office. Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios becomes the governor. And we have seen how Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios's spending priorities have aligned quite a bit with the spending priorities of the Democrat majority in the House. And let's say, and then Jude Hofschneider, as the president of the Senate, becomes the lieutenant governor. Would I be correct? Did you guys hear me? I'm sorry? We can still hear you. A little bit.
So ghetto. I don't know how to, but can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
You want to answer that?
I
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. So we're playing out the impeachment and the process. So let's say Ralph Torres gets impeached next week, and then the Senate finishes its trial in February, let's say, and Ralph Torres is convicted because 6 senators voted yes on at least one charge. Then Arnold Palacios will become the governor, and he has largely his spending priorities that have he stated publicly align in many ways with the spending priorities of you guys, the Democrats in the House. And let's say, and then of course the person who becomes lieutenant governor would be Senate President Jude Hofschneider. Would I be correct? That means, and Mr. Hofschneider is from Tinian, and Tinian, the people of Tinian, would have that much stronger of a voice in the governor's office. Would I be correct? I mean, he would work with Arnold Palacios in allocating funds. What I'm wondering is if the Senate, if there's been any discussion among the senators from Rhoda and Tinian. Can you guys hear me? If there's been any discussion among those senators about how they would benefit. Oh, okay. I think we're having technical difficulties, folks. Just give us a second. I think Congresswoman Sablan is going to hop onto the Zoom from her phone.
Yeah, got it. So we're going to turn the audio from you.
Okay. Can you hear us now? Okay. So Jude Hofschneider, being from Tinian, the people of Tinian will have that much greater of a voice in the use of those ARPA funds. I'm wondering whether this has been played out by the politics has been played out by the senators from Rhoda and Tinian, who comprise 6 of the 9 members. Have they thought that the removal of Ralph Torres might actually be something good for the people of Rhoda and Tinian in terms of the use of ARPA funds to help the people of Rhoda and Tinian?
Troy, we're gonna have to reset it. We'll jump. Give us like 30 seconds. We're gonna
Sure. So we'll jump back on.
We're going to leave and come back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
We're gonna leave and come back.
Okay. So they're having technical difficulties. We'll get right back to them. I think they're going to leave the room and enter it back, and they're going to do this whole thing. So one of the things that I was wondering...
It's somebody called in.
On my...
That's why.
I'm trying to mute this.
It's right here. So one of... my double chin. So one of the things I'm wondering is whether the senators, because there's 3 from Rhoda and 3 from Tinian, that makes 6, whether they've considered...
Getting him out. Hey, just vote him out. Let's get in there.
Vote, yeah, so that they can make more money for the people of Rhoda and Tinian.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I understand is that they haven't been getting much support from the Torres administration. And so, has that discussion been happening among those senators? I think the senators from Rhoda are Paul Manglonia, Terry Santos, and Victor Holcomb. And then from Tinian, I believe it's Francisco Cruz, Senate President Jude Hofschneider, and Carl King Neighbors. And then the senators from Saipan are Justo Quirigua, Edith De Leon Guerrero, and Vinny Sablan. Senator Sablan is Ralph Torres' running mate. And I wonder what kind of discussions... Oh, here we go. Admit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're rejoining us. I think the volume. Hi, guys.
Hi. Is this Tunisia?
Not yet. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Is that better?
Much better. We are so sorry.
So Raymond Lizama is saying that if Torres is removed or resigns, Palacios ascends to become the governor. Jude Hofschneider will be the lieutenant governor, and then Justo Quirigua will take over as the Senate president. The question I had, if we played this out and if we considered what would happen, do you know if the senators from Rhoda and Tinian have been talking about how removing Ralph Torres from office might actually be good for the people of Rhoda and Tinian because they would have a stronger voice in getting ARPA funds for programs and employment and economic buildup in Rhoda and Tinian.
We definitely hope they would see it that way. If the Senate President, who is the current Senate President, who is Senator Jude Hofschneider, ascends to the Lieutenant Governor's position, should Ralph Torres be removed from office by the Senate, certainly it would grant Tinian access through Lieutenant Governor, if he ascends, Jude Hofschneider, for access to ARPA funds that can truly help the people of Tinian and as well as Rhoda. That is, of course, their prerogative at this point, Troy. But we are working to get the climate, to get a sense of the climate in the Senate. We are working. Hopefully, we can do this legislature.
Who will the Senate? Oh, I'm sorry. Who will? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to note that the waste and fraud and abuse that we've seen, that we've documented throughout this investigation, and now in these impeachment articles, are not just concerns of the people of Saipan, they're concerns of the entire Commonwealth. Tinian and Rhoda and Saipan, all together, we're all affected by corruption and neglected duty and waste, fraud, and abuse of funds, right? And so I would hope that the senators would, once these articles of impeachment reach their chamber, that they would look at all the evidence, take into account all of the concerns that have been raised, and listen to the voices of their constituents as we have as well.
And I want to add that it would really be unfair for the people of Tinian and Rhoda, if they're senators, without even looking at a shred of evidence, to have already passed judgment not to convict Governor Torres. I think they should keep an open mind and take a look at the evidence and make their decisions based on the concerted effort of the people of Tinian and Rhoda as well, and Saipan.
So on that note, Congressman, thank you for bringing that up. Chelo, I want you to cue the video. We're going to show a video to our audience that was taken last night that shows what appears to be a major meeting at the residence of Senate Floor Leader Victor Hokuk, who is a senator from Rhoda. And can you play that video, Chelo? Ole? And there was so someone drove by and saw the vehicles of members of the Torres family and Governor Ralph Torres at the residence of Senator Victor Hokuk. And the governor has been talking about he wants a fair trial. So the video is rolling right now. It's a short video. He wants a fair trial. He feels that he's going to get a fair trial in the Senate. It doesn't look like
he wants to play fair.
He's playing fair. Yeah. When you have a major political gathering at the home of one of the senators, were you guys able to see that?
They're seeing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, none of this surprised me, Roy. And maybe our chairwoman Celina can speak to other attempts at unfairly. She referenced a lot of it in her statement today, but trying to influence both the House as well as the Senate, but then the judiciary too.
I wanted to bring that up. Yes.
I'm sorry.
I did want to bring that up. The ex parte communication. Can you please talk to our audience about what happened?
Without going much into detail, Governor Torres did attempt to meet privately with the Chief Justice, and thankfully the Chief Justice said no. So that is a pattern we've seen with Governor Ralph Torres trying to influence the legislature. I mean, he tried to tell us what rules he wants for his investigation, where he wants to be interrogated, who should interrogate him.
Not sworn in.
He didn't want to do it under oath, and now, he tried to give us rules that he wanted to testify under. And then now he has reached out to the judiciary. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't be surprised if he is actually writing the rules for the Senate and how to conduct his trial. And I hope the senators take into consideration everything that he has done to railroad and delay his investigation and to put a stop to it.
I hope you're right. There is a December 30 letter that I have here from Gilbert Burnbridge, Joseph Horry, Richard Miller, attorneys for the governor, written to Patrick Diaz, clerk of the Superior Court this is regarding the case Ralph de Leon Torres versus House Standing Committee, where the governor here, where his attorneys are trying to get the judge changed out. And as I understand it, this same letter was not served upon the House Standing Committee. This was an attempt at an ex parte communication, which I think our audience deserves to know is a major violation of court rules and how you conduct. You're not supposed to do that. This is how corruption festers. And so the attempt for the governor to speak with Chief Justice Alex Castro, this man have no bounds in his conduct.
No bounds.
No bounds.
And to speak of that, it is a pattern of highly unethical behavior on the governor himself to even attempt to do that.
But what about
that speaks to character.
What about his attorneys? Shouldn't they know better?
We have plans for that.
Oh, okay. I'm glad. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to. Well, I'm sure there's lots of things, but there's something I want to touch on is the local prosecution of the governor. Let's set aside the federal investigation and any pending federal prosecution of the governor, but the local prosecution of the governor. It's not lost on the audience that the chief prosecutor at the Attorney General's office in the CNMI is married to a member of the governor's campaign committee, one of his closest cronies, Kim Hines. Are you guys concerned about whether the people are going to get a fair shake at the Attorney General's office, considering the connections that are there?
Well, so at this point, the JGO committee has, and the speaker has also made a referral of contempt for the Attorney General's office to come. And it's our understanding that the chief prosecutor has been recused from that process, and there are other prosecutors who've been assigned to review the contempt charge. At this point, I think they're still reviewing. So, but in terms of some of the other charges that could potentially be brought locally, I mean, yeah, that would be a concern. Is will the prosecutors at the AG's office be able to treat these charges fairly and prosecute and uphold the rule of law? That will be a question, but we haven't crossed that bridge yet. At this point, our focus really is on getting impeachment through the legislature, and the House next week is going to be step one.
And Troy, may I add,
Sure.
the climate here, you will see, even though the governor has said, well, I'll take my chances in the Senate because that's the only place I'm going to have fairness, because the House, they're full of criminals and lawbreakers and animal rights abuse or whatever, right? We're the worst people in the world. He only feels that he'll have his fair shot in the Senate. But I do expect him to send a bunch of his people to come and testify in support of him and praise him for his glory and greatness, and maybe do a bow or something. So we can expect that. We welcome all comments on all sides. I don't think that there's really any speech or whatever that could be said that could really sway those of us who are certainly going to vote for impeachment. Unless all the documents he can come in today or before then and explain to us in very simple terms, because I'm a simple person, why all of these purchases benefited me, my wife, my family, and our people of the Commonwealth. I'm still waiting for his explanation, So until then, we'll see him. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Well, I can't make I can't understand how a Bose speaker, a wheelbarrow, or a car battery for his personal car benefited the people of the Commonwealth. Or foie gras, or however you call it. Or Johnny's favorite was chicken Vienna sausage. My favorite, of course, is the Cheetos. Was the Flamin' Hot Cheetos. For 68 cents. Was it Walmart or was it Best Buy? Do you remember it? Best Buy? Oh, Walmart? It's been so long. I gotta look back at those receipts. Now, let's say the impeachment goes through next week. Is there any discussion yet on who among you will be prosecutors for the Senate trial?
We're still in discussion with our team and selecting members very carefully. But and that's to prepare for the Senate trial. But we have not finalized anything yet.
But I think we're also going to have to wait to see what rules the Senate adopts to govern the proceeding. So that has yet to.
Yeah.
Were rules adopted, and ironically, Ralph Torres was the Senate president at the time, but were rules adopted following the impeachment of Governor Benigno Fitial in the Senate?
Yes.
There were rules. So there actually is a precedent where you get to look back and see what those rules were and match them up against what the current rules should be. Would that be correct? Now,
I mean, we have rules that were previously adopted in that proceeding. Yes, so we can look back and have an idea of what the Senate this time around might consider. But it's a whole new Senate, and some new senators. Maybe some are. I'll have to look back and see who was in the Senate at the time. But they can adopt really any rules they see fit.
would you agree that what the House has accused Ralph Torres of, is far and away worse than what Benigno Fitial was impeached for?
100%.
And
100%.
So are any of the members of the Senate, were they in the legislature at the time of the impeachment of Benigno Fitial?
So.
I believe there's a couple that were there.
Yeah, there's some who were in the House.
And did they support the impeachment of the governor at the time?
I'm sorry?
Did those couple of people support the impeachment of Governor Fitial at that time?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we have members of the House presently who supported the impeachment of Governor Fitial at the time. And they're now in the 22nd.
They are now in support of the impeachment of...
Reason to believe that the senators who were there at the time of the Fitial impeachment were supporting the removal of Governor Fitial at the time, because that is the reason why he subsequently resigned before he was convicted.
So if these senators who supported the impeachment and removal of Governor Fitial at that time for allegations of crimes that are far less severe than the allegations being made against Governor Torres, vote against the removal of Governor Ralph Torres in this round, they have some explaining to do to their constituents. Why was there one set of standards for Governor Fitial and a separate set of standards for Governor Torres? Would I be hitting the nail on the head there?
Yes, and I want to say something that's a little bit of irony, is that Ralph Torres was a senator during the impeachment of former Governor Fitial, and Ralph Torres fully supported the impeachment or the conviction if it were to go to the Senate. And that was the reason why, as mentioned by Chairwoman Babauta, that he subsequently resigned. But I remember having those conversations with then Senator Ralph Torres, who said, "Yeah, we were going to convict him," and here he is today facing impeachment and removal, and he doesn't obviously support that.
Shelly McKenna Fernandez asks, "Is this going to be fair?" I'm not sure what this is, but I'm guessing that she means the trial or the impeachment process even. Raymond Lizama says special election for Senate for Tinian. I believe maybe that's a reference to what would happen if Jude Hofschneider ascends to become lieutenant governor. Jeffrey Bora says the senators from Tinian will never vote to convict the governor, regardless of the solid evidence against the governor.
I'm glad, Troy. I want to say that I'm glad that people are speaking out, because the senators have to answer to their constituents when they go back home and face them. So that is on them. Completely on them.
Raymond Lizama says Chief Justice Castro will preside over the Senate trial. Is that correct? The Chief Justice will preside over. Is that what the Constitution says?
Well, we've never gone through this whole process to include the trial at the Senate, but yes, that is what we are anticipating. But then again, without the Senate rules, we really are just preparing for whatever rules they may come up with. And we're looking at all angles and preparing for everything and anticipating what set of rules they may come up with, and who will be the impeachment managers from the House.
Vince Camacho asks Congresswoman Sablan, so who's Tina's running mate?
Vince Camacho, then you're Vince Camacho?
Chief of Staff.
I don't know. I'm not sure that's your chief of staff, but
Will be announced.
will be announced soon. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else you guys want to add here before we get off this call?
Yes, I've been talking. Okay.
Yeah, I do want to briefly address the question that was raised about fairness. Is this process going to be fair? And, obviously Governor Torres has his view of what fairness means, right? And we've seen him go to great lengths to define fairness in terms of what is favorable for him, right? And that isn't fair. But I can tell you that from the House side, for these last 2 years, there has been so much just painstaking effort to look at all the records, interview witnesses, really grilling witnesses for hours on end, and also, debating amongst ourselves, like, are we looking at these documents, in the right light? What other explanations could there possibly be? Like we've really made great efforts to be fair, and on top of that, we've invited Governor Torres, we've afforded him multiple opportunities throughout this process to really address the concerns and the questions that we had. Do it under oath, under penalty of perjury, and do it publicly, not just for the legislature, but for the people we all represent. And so, from our perspective, that House process has been fair, and so these charges that we've come up with in these articles of impeachment, we're going to debate them again next week, and the articles that we approve will be sent to the Senate. And so this is like we would be like the prosecutors on the House side bringing charges to the Senate, and they would be the jurors to decide ultimately whether to do it. And yes, from the Senate side, their process should also be fair. And as the chairwoman said, we are all hoping that the senators, our colleagues on the other side of the legislature, will go in with open minds and do what we've done, look at the evidence and come to their own best judgments about, what is true, what is fair, and what would be the just consequence to hold our governor.
Can I also
Of course.
add that what is deeply concerning, Troy, is that throughout all of this, it's really Ralph Torres's relentless pursuit to hold on to power, and to what extent is he willing to go to ensure that he stays on as governor, right? And I can understand if he was doing a fantastic job where he's looking out for the poor, people in our precinct that are suffering right now, that don't have power, they're still waiting for the PUA and a million other things. If he was out there meeting with them, which he never did, by the way, never chose to meet with them, so it's upsetting. But he always talks about the less fortunate and everything, but he's not willing to meet with them, It's really discomforting. But here's how far he's willing to go. His loyal special assistant, talk about throwing somebody under the bus. He's willing to sacrifice her so that she may face contempt charges and possibly, not guaranteed, but possibly prison time. Who would do that to your special assistant? I wouldn't do that to my chief of staff. I wouldn't do that to anybody. I wouldn't say, I want you to say nothing and risk going to jail. That's essentially what he did. Now, if he had told her, I want you to just tell them whatever they want to know, just talk, speak the truth. You have your lawyer there that can guide you, right? Like everybody else. He didn't do that. Instead, he said, don't say a word. Don't worry. I have $200,000 of lawyers, taxpayer funded, and I have my brothers, and I have other big shot lawyers that I have connected to, and we'll take care of you. That's terrible. That in itself is shameful and deplorable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, Troy, I want to add that in line with what Representative Sablan has said about fairness, there were so many other documents that we could have put out, but we chose not to. And some of them were just as egregious as what we have put out. For example, there were private concerts paid for by my taxpayers for the benefit of his family alone. It was a private party at a hotel here with the musical group Fiji.
Wow.
There were so many other things, Troy, that it would have dragged the hearing on for another year at least.
Wow.
If we were to seriously examine these documents, it's amazing, and I welcomed the media to one day come to my office and take a look at the documents we have.
Thank you.
And what we have not put out. There was so much more that we did not put out, rather than what we did put out as exhibits. Let's just put it that way.
Well, we'll be setting up shop there soon. We wanted to actually set up shop there in the middle of December, but then the governor shut down the government, and the night before Johnny and Isaac were supposed to leave to Saipan. We still have our open fare ticket to go there, so yes, we will be setting up shop there, and we will take you up on that offer to examine those documents. Indeed. What about everyone else? The governor didn't do all these corrupt things on his own. What about justice for everybody else who aided and abetted this corruption?
It's going to take a long while for our government to clean up its act. Certainly there were so many people who were complicit based on what we've seen from the documents. We're not after the little guys, but at least they know we put them on notice that we are looking into this, and maybe they may not be the subject of the JGO investigation. They may be a part of somebody else's investigation, so we will leave it at that.
Well, something that I think Ralph Torres cronies, and if he has any cronies in the Senate, might want to consider is that if he stays in office everything that they did to help him will follow, because this political issue will not go away. If he's removed from office, the public's appetite for some sort of justice might actually be satiated to the point where they can get off the hook because the governor was removed from office. Those senators who may have been complicit in anything may want to consider that in their decision. If the decision that they're making is purely selfish and political, at the very least, think about what that may do, how the decision might benefit them to remove Ralph Torres from office. I'm just being real and practical here.
That's a good point, actually. I'm sure it has crossed their minds.
Yeah, I hope it does. Thank you so much for. I'm sorry.
The buck stops with the governor. Ultimately, the buck stops with the governor, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, sure, there were plenty of other people complicit at all levels of government, but he sets the tone, and the decision, the responsibility for all the misconduct and waste and abuse that we've seen, it rests squarely on the governor's shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else that helped him, people who answered to him, serve at his pleasure, and yes, sure, they're responsible too. But the person that we have a duty, ultimately as legislators, to hold accountable under the Constitution, right? The power of impeachment rests with the legislature to hold the governor responsible for abuses of his office.
So it's a question of who is more culpable, with the legislative process. There were, like Representative Sablan, so there were other people who were complicit, but who is more culpable? It ultimately is an atmosphere set by Governor Torres, instilling fear in government employees. So now there's a fear of retaliation from all levels of government in all agencies. That we get messages daily, fearing for their jobs, fearing for their family who work in the government. Some are vocal, but we also have some who remain silent because they have family members or children who work in the government, and they know what could happen to them if they speak out.
Yeah, and that's a sad situation. Hopefully, whistleblower legislation is strengthened in the CNMI, and this computer here is telling me that it's going to run out of power soon. The last thing I wanted to ask was whether we could have a call like this maybe sometime early next week, or I'm sorry, after impeachment. After impeachment, can we come back and have a call regarding an issue that Kandit has brought up, and that is the possibility, or the very high likelihood, that this hardship program that has been instituted at the CNMI Department of Labor is the type of program that has already been struck down by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and whether the legislature is going to hold any further oversight on that. Can we talk about that next week after the impeachment?
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I want to thank you on behalf of all of our viewers for this time that you've spent with us. Thanks for sacrificing your lunch break to be with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kandit News.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny.
You guys have
Thank
a
you,
good day.
everybody.
You guys have a great day.